welcome to the first breakfast of the year. I don't know about you, but I always look forward to Eggs and Issues, and I'm excited this morning to have Dan Perdue as in his new role as chair of the Houston County Board of Commissioners.
There you are.
There, I have a mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So this series is something we look forward to hosting each year, as it provides real-time access for our members to connect with our municipal leaders, development partners, and other community champions. Through this series, we get to dig deeper into priorities, progress, and partnership opportunities of our program presenters while networking with peers and gaining new insight into what matters most and moving our great community forward. We're grateful for the ongoing support of our host for this series, Houston Healthcare, who we heard from in the video at the top of the program, and our longtime presenting series sponsor, Synovus. If you've been to this series before, then you know Ron normally starts us off with a joke. Unfortunately, he's not here this morning. So and I don't have a joke for you, so we're going to ask Mark Yarrow to lead the invocation and pledge and share a few words.
April emailed me and said, make sure you don't trip.
There's the joke.
There's the joke. Well, I'm going to have to scratch some things off then because I have number two. So, no, we're glad to be here. Would everybody stand for praise? Father in heaven, thank you for your great love and blessing over our lives. Thank you that your favor has no end, but it lasts for an entire lifetime. Forgive us for sometimes forgetting that you're ultimately aware of our ways, and you know our concerns and fears, and that you cover us with your love and protection. We ask for your guidance so that we might walk fully in your blessing and goodness today. We ask that your face would shine on us, that you would open the right doors for our lives, for our loved ones, and that you would close the wrong doors and protect us from those we need to walk away from. Establish the work of our hands and bring to fulfillment all that you have given us to do these days. We pray that you would make our way purposeful and our footsteps firm out of your goodness and love. Bless this meeting and all that are here today. Give us a heart of wisdom to hear your voice and make us strong by your favor and grace. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We stole a little bit of my thunder. So yes, Ron is not here today, and I kept hearing people were concerned about whether he would be here or not, but they wouldn't hear Dad joke. So I texted him yesterday. I said, hey man, can you send me one of your jokes? He said, Mark, look, I'm really busy working right now. I'll send one later. I said, man, that's pretty funny. Send me another one. So he did. But this is strictly a Ron joke. Do not hold me accountable to this one. So the guy goes to the doc and says, Doc, you got to help me, man. I am addicted to Twitter. Doctor looked and goes, I don't follow you. That is Ron. Now, I want to thank everyone for being here this morning. It's always a pleasure to see everyone, all the familiar faces, the new faces, and spend this time together. I want to thank April and everyone at the Chamber for all the tireless work you do to put this event on, as well as all the other events in the community that you put on. I want to thank all the leaders that are here today, especially the ones seated right here in the front, but all around the room, everybody is in leadership capacity in some way, shape, or form. And we appreciate the contributions that you make to make this city great. Between what all of you do, the people that work for you, the Chamber, we've created an example of what a city and a county looks like and what excellence is. Grateful to be here today speaking on behalf of Synovus. I see a lot of friendly faces that are, not only business clients or personal clients, here in this community. And Synovus is committed to this community, and we're here to help, and we appreciate the opportunity and the fact that we've been able to earn your trust. That's all I got.
At this time, I'd also like to acknowledge our supporting session sponsorship provided by Mission Critical Comfort Solutions, Budget Blinds, and ICB Construction Group. Today's session sponsor is Flint Energies, and I'd like to welcome the CEO of Flint Energies, Jeremy Nelms, to the stage for sponsor remarks.
So the reality is, Ron's scared, because I got dad jokes too. The reality is, I needed a good joke, because it's always good to start one of these sessions off with that. And I asked my wife this morning, you know, what joke should I start with? She turned and looked at me and she said, well, just don't ever forget, you're not very funny. So take that for what it's worth. I know a few of y'all out there agree. My name is Jeremy Nelms. I am the CEO of Flint, and I am proud to be here today. I'm proud to serve as the leader of Houston County's only member-owned electric utility. And I am proud to be here today because I've got so many community partners here in the room with me, far too many to name right now. But since we're here to recognize Houston County, I want to take a moment to do that and recognize just a few of the departments that Flint works with on a near daily basis to help move this community forward. So down front here, we've got Mr. Dunbar and Mr. Jones, and I really just want to thank their entire public works team, because when really bad storms hit Houston County like they did last April, Flint really cannot get out there to do much until that public works team comes out there and helps clear that roadway and makes it safe, so that we can begin doing our power restoration and getting the lines back up in the air. So thank you to Mr. Dunbar and Mr. Jones. Also want to take a moment to recognize Angie and Amelia and the whole Development Authority team, which I think it may be just those two. So it's a great team for all that they do to sell Houston County, which in turn helps Flint's system to continue to grow. And then finally, I want to thank Chairman Perdue and the other commissioners for their steadfast leadership in helping to move Houston County forward and to help continue to make this the *1 county in the state of Georgia to live, work, play, and pray. So thank you to the commissioners. Now, I'll take it as a point of pride, point of privilege to maybe have a little interactive part here. So please, if you will, if you pay a power bill to Flint, either personally or your business does, please raise your hand. Wow. That's a whole bunch of my Flint members in this room. And that's not lost on me. I'm here to serve you. And on behalf of myself, my family, my board, and the 230 plus employees and their families, thank you. Thank you for your patronage, and thank you for your support of Flint EMC. Because without you, Flint does not exist. And because of you, Flint can continue to do our part to help move this county forward. So if there's anything that you ever need from me, I work for you, and I'm here to serve. Thank you.
Well, I didn't intend to start the program with so many empty promises of no jokes, but everybody delivered. Those were great. At this time, I would like to call up Dan Perdue, Houston County native, local business owner, and newly elected chairman of our Houston County Board of Commissioners. And April Wright, our president and CEO.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing?
Good morning.
Y'all good? So So a couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. We do have a clog in the ladies' restroom, so if anyone needs to use the facilities while we're up here, I know we're gonna be super riveting.
Is this another dad
So
joke?
this is not a joke. This is not a joke. So there are restroom facilities. If you'll follow the exit sign here, they're around on the right. Men's and women's. Chairman Perdue, as your first time in this new role, we're excited to welcome you here. We also have another new addition that I would like to introduce, and that's our backdrop wall here. I want to give a quick shout out to David Collins Media and Graphic Guys for helping us with this creative display. Y'all give them a round of applause real quick. We're always looking for opportunities to enhance your experience and what we're able to provide in this forum, and it is super encouraging to be in a community where you can literally do that with one phone call. And the resources are right here, the talent is right here, and we certainly couldn't do any of that without our amazing sponsors. Our year-long corporate partners are listed on the new banners down there. I encourage you to take a look at all of the organizations that are invested above and beyond in the critical mission work that the Chamber does. Of course, we get to host incredible programs like this, but they really are icing on the cake to the day-to-day quality of life, making sure that we've got an environment that's conducive for business success here, and we simply couldn't do that without our corporate partners, without our event sponsors, and each of you finding value in the critical work that we do. So I just want to say thank you at our first breakfast of the year. And now, Chairman, now that I've gotten all of that out of the way, I want to just thank you for being our first guest. Is this hot? Are y'all hearing like echo going on here? If you can let Al, yeah, he's fixing breakfast, so that was probably the problem, so he's going to go back there and fix that. But I think it might be the podium mic picking me up as well. So I'd like to start out and just give you an opportunity to introduce some of the team members you've got here with the county. I know you've got some other special guests here, so welcome.
Yeah, it's good to be here this morning. I am glad that I am not the only one who knew that Ron would be absent this morning and therefore came preloaded with a dad joke. But since we've been adequately covered by dad jokes this morning, so I think I may be one of a small percentage of people in the room who enjoy those. But we do have our entire Board of Commissioners here this morning, and over the last 3 or so years, we've experienced really a significant transformation in who is on the Board of Commissioners and what that body.
I'm out
Already. Oh wow! And what that body looks like, and starting in 2020, when Larry Thompson and Tom McMichael announced that they would not seek re-election. At that time, every member of the Board of Commissioners had more than 20 years of service to Houston County. And so if you think about that sort of legacy of leadership there, and we'll talk about a legacy of leadership later on, but if you think about that amount of service to the people of Houston County sitting on that body, it was significant. So at that time, Mark Bird and I decided to run for those seats, and we were successful. And then in 2022, Chairman Tommy Stonecker and Jay Walker. And Jay Walker was the longest serving commissioner for Houston County. I think he served 40 years or thereabouts. And Tommy Stonecker concluded a 50-year service, years of service to the county at the end of 2022, both in terms of on the employment side and serving as chair of the county commission for 12 years. So when you look at what we've got now, it's distinctly different. But I'm very proud to say that all the people who are serving on our commission now serve with the same motivation and the same end goal in mind, and that is for the betterment of Houston County. There's not a single person that's serving on our commission that does so out of what they can get out of it. Trust me, it ain't enough, right? But when we meet and we talk about the issues and we examine those issues, we have good communication. But I'm confident, and I hope as the citizens of Houston County see this new commission and how it operates, they become increasingly confident that all of those folks are there for the betterment of Houston County and its citizens. The first one, the most recent, along with myself, who won election in 2022, is Shane Gottwald. Shane needs no introduction to this room, having been a fairly recent chair of the Robbins Region Chamber Board. And Shane is really bright and articulate. We can always count on Shane for a good literary quote at one of our meetings, which I frankly love and welcome. He, in the meeting the other day on Tuesday, he said, "I was reading recently," and I said, "You don't say." We really appreciate the wisdom that Shane has brought to the board. It's a steady hand. It's a strong desire to look at the numbers, understand what's happening with the issues, and do the best thing for Houston County. So Shane is newly elected on the County Commission Board. And I'm very happy to have Shane there, and I hope the people of Houston County become increasingly happy with Shane being there. Commissioner Talton was elected in, what was it, August of 2022. He was elected, I had the distinction at the time of being the shortest serving commissioner in Houston County history because I had to resign to run for Chairman Stoneker's seat, and Tal ran to fill the open post 4 there that I vacated. Tal has deep roots in this community. Most of you probably know Tal very well. Tal has a very service-minded ethic, and he comes in with a strong desire to see the best thing for Houston County, for it to continue to be a great place to raise a family, to plant a business, and things like that. And I'm so glad that Tal made the decision to serve, and he's doing so wonderfully. So after that, the next, who is now the second longest serving commissioner. So, and that's only been about 2 years and 2 months. So time flies when you're having fun. But is Mark Bird. Mark and I actually, we were acquaintances, but before we ran for the commission at the same time, we did not know each other that well. And Mark and I have become fast friends, and I appreciate Mark's friendship and wisdom. Mark's been a chair, I think, of the Robbins Region Chamber Board and just about every other board that you can imagine in this community. He's been advancing good stuff in this community for a long time, and he continues to do that as a member of the commission. Mark and I often come to different conclusions on issues, but we think very similarly about issues, and we try to analyze them from a similar perspective. So I appreciate that Mark and I can occasionally disagree, but we still get along and are friends in that way. And finally, we come to the dean of the commission and the rose among thorns. Let me tell you, Gail Robinson, throughout all that change, Gail stayed on the commission. She was one of those people that had more than 20 years of service, and she's remained on the commission, and she still has more than 20 years of service. Gail has been very patient with us spry newcomers, if you will, and has shepherded us very well. She a lot of times, you know, one of us will throw out an idea or an issue, and Gail will go, we tried that once. Let me tell you how it went. And it's important to have that knowledge base there, and Gail continues to bring that. She's sharp as a tack. She's a great lawyer. She does not try to be the county attorney, but it's nice to have an attorney on the commission, and she does a great job of that, and I appreciate Gail's continuing to put up with us and her service on the commission. So that is what the commission itself looks like, and in addition to that, we've got we went through a fairly significant staff change in senior leadership over the last 18 months or so, and first of all, I want to call out, we lost Barry Holland. Barry opted to retire, and I don't think it was because that Tommy was also retiring. Maybe he just loved you that much, Chairman Stoneker. But he opted to go ahead and retire, and he and his wife are having a good time in their mutual retirement. And we opted, the county wisely chose to bring over Robbie Dunbar, who was our director. We call it director of operations. You could also call it director of public works. And Robbie's been with the county for 32 years now. And Robbie brings a tremendous amount of humility and a tremendous amount of wisdom to that role. Robbie's and I's offices are right next door to each other, and I swear sometimes he gets irritated, and I don't blame him, with me poking my head in and go, what about this? What about that? And I appreciate the institutional knowledge that Robbie brings into that role. When we were talking to Robbie about whether or not he wanted to do that, it's fairly, I think Robbie's still got several more years of service left at the county, but he's fairly late in his career to be making such a significant change. And I really appreciated the way Robbie approached that change, which was, I think I'm ready for a new challenge. And that will give you an insight into Robbie's character and the way that he's willing to serve Houston County. So I appreciate Robbie and the work he's doing in that role. So obviously we brought our Director of Operations over, and we had to backfill that position. And for that role, we chose Brian Jones, who's now the Director of Operations or Director of Public Works, however you choose to term it. Brian, I think Brian's working anniversary with the county is today, according to Ken Carter, our HR Director, 13 years. So happy work anniversary, Brian. Brian is a wicked sharp engineer, and I can always count on Brian to have the best interest of Houston County at heart. For someone who is as credentialed as Brian, he could go somewhere else and make a lot more money and do very well for himself. But he has chosen to stay with Houston County because he loves this county and wants to see what's best for it. And I appreciate that a tremendous amount about Brian. So when Chairman Stonecker chose to not seek re-election, I got to be honest, the first question, I think a key to Chairman Stonecker's success was that he went home every night and slept with the finance director for Houston County. And for those of you who don't know, Tommy met his wife Sandy when they were both working with the county, and she had close to 50 years of service. How many of y'all have I embarrassed this morning? This is going to be fun. One of the first questions I asked Tommy, and I think many other people did when I was informed that he was not going to seek re-election, was, what about Sandy? And Chairman Stonecker looked at me and goes, you think I'm going to be difficult to replace. Sandy is going to be significantly more difficult to replace. And let me tell you something, we hit the jackpot when Danielle George, who had been performing our county's audits for many years, when Tommy called her and said, hey, do you know anyone who would be interested in this job? And she called back a few days later and said, you know what, I think I may be interested in that job. And there was no way we were going to find someone with the very high, Danielle was a partner in an accounting firm, CPA, all of these things. There was no way we were going to find someone with that level of high accounting experience who was also as familiar with the county's books as Danielle. And so we are very fortunate to have Danielle George on our team serving as our Director of Finance. Those are three pivotal positions for Houston County government, and I could not be more pleased and proud of the people that we have who have backfilled those positions. The fact that we have such high caliber people in those roles speaks to the culture that I frankly have inherited, and that Tommy Stonecker and Ned Sanders and Cheryl Stafford and those commissioners that served for 20 and 40 years on that board of commission, they created a phenomenal culture there in Houston County. And the fact that we're able to retain talent and attract talent like this speaks to that. And so I think the county is in good shape there.
That's fantastic. And we have pictures of all of these people that we just introduced. So if we have any pro-presenter experts in the audience that work with your church, if you'll head back to the room.
But I
know
don't think that would be helpful.
you are and I am, and I can't go help Tiffany, but something's happening. So if you'll go out there, that would be amazing, because we've got projects that we're going to talk about in a little while, and I know people want to see the projects happening. But you know, in your introductions, you talked a lot about this culture of excellence and really alluding to a legacy of leadership. And that's something that I know Angie and I and many others have the incredible privilege of touting about Houston County and the leadership we have at the county level, in our school board, and all of our cities. What does that look like for you carrying that torch forward, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so I think primarily, when I think about leadership, what comes to the picture in my mind is a specific style of leadership called servant leadership. I think most of you in this room are probably familiar with that, but servant leadership doesn't focus on the leader and making them significant and great, but it primarily focuses on those people that they are leading and how to serve those people and seeking the betterment of those people. So when I think about leadership and a legacy of leadership, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for folks in Houston County on our staff, at the Board of Commissioners, and really all over our leadership who are focused on the citizens of Houston County, the customers of Houston County, and how to serve those people in the best way possible. So the next thing I think about is a tenet that really my father drilled into me. He grew up on a farm, right? And so we grew up sort of surrounding agriculture, but we weren't farmers. But one of the tenets they lived by was leave it better than you found it. And I can say all of the commissioners that this new crop has replaced, Chairman Stonecker, they all left it better than they found it. I can confidently say that. And I hope in 20 years that folks are able to look at me and Mark Bird and Tal Talton and Gail Robinson and Shane Gottwalds, Robbie Dunbar and Brian Jones and Danielle George and all of the current administration and staff at Houston County and say they left it better than they found it. They made improvements to Houston County. So when we think about locally a legacy of leadership, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about support for Robins Air Force Base. In this community, if you want to be a leader, you got to support Robins Air Force Base. And this county has a long legacy of doing just that, and we're going to continue to do that. All of our current commissioners, all of senior staff is committed. If my phone rings and it's Colonel Droz or it's other leadership on the base, we're answering and we're saying, yes ma'am, yes sir, we're going to do what it takes to help solve this problem for you. So that's challenging sometimes, but we're all willing to do what it takes to appropriately support Robins Air Force Base. And I think the final thing when I think about a legacy of leadership for Houston County is we've got to acknowledge that we are now the largest county in our region. In the latest census, we surpassed Macon-Bibb as the largest county. We're committed to a regional approach and we're committed to solving regional problems, but we need to be willing to assume that mantle of regional leadership and help move our region forward. When folks think about how am I going to solve problem X, Y, and Z, I want them to look at Houston County and say, we know Houston County is doing it right, so let's look at how they're doing it and let's solve the problem that way.
I love that. So we talk about the legacy of leadership, and you obviously have a personal legacy of leadership as well. How has this transition been in coming into the chairman role? You know, you had the opportunity to serve on the commission before taking over the position as chair, but how has this transition been for the board, your staff, your family? We have your wife Jessica here with us today. Share for us just a second, if you will, about that.
Yeah, I think the board has thankfully been patient with me as I've learned what it means to be chairman, having served as a previous post commissioner. The role of chairman is a little bit different. You're responsible for putting together the agenda, you're responsible for running the meetings, and that's coming with a few hiccups. And our county attorney Tom Hall can tell you after the first couple meetings I looked and I said, Tom, have we missed anything? Have we done anything wrong that's going to get us in trouble? And so thankfully the answers were no there. But they've been patient with me as I've managed to figure out what it means to be chairman and to help put together those agendas and meetings. From a staff perspective, all the staff have told me they love the change. So I don't know. Maybe they're lying to me. No, I mean, maybe if you get them off to themselves, they can tell you something. But here's what I know about staff and government. It can be somewhat of a whiplash when you're serving in government, serving as a civil servant, and new executive leadership comes in and they go, all right, you know that vision that we worked 15 years under the prior administration to establish? We're doing the exact opposite now. And so I've really tried to minimize those whiplash moments and to say, we're gonna, there may be some slight tweaks, but overall, I tell people all the time, I think the number one mandate from the citizens of Houston County is don't screw it up, right? We've got a good thing going here, and overall, we're headed in the right direction. There may be some tweaks here and there may be a different style of leadership for myself, unlike Chairman Stonecker, or slightly different things we want to do, but we've got to acknowledge we're headed overall in the right direction. I think for me personally, I'm excited about this job. I come to work every day energized and excited. It's a new challenge every day. That excites me. Let me just say this. If you're around elected leaders and they constantly complain about their job, tell them to quit running. Okay? This is not a job that you've got to go to, right? If at any point you don't like your job, just don't put your name on the ballot the next time, and you will be relieved of that duty. So I don't understand elected leadership that like to complain about their job constantly. Quit running, right? So I'm excited about this. I enjoy it. Gosh, I feel like I just put a gamble on the room. And then for my family, we've got the difference in logistic challenges from dropping off kids and whatnot, but you're right, Jessica's here with me this morning. Anybody who has met Jessica knows that she is my better half. You're not telling me anything. You're trying to get one over on me when you come up and go, Jessica's your better half. Yeah, I know, okay? And I tell you what, we got our audit earlier this week back in the county, and there's two people who I made sure got a copy of the audit. Number one, Tommy Stonecker. I don't think a herd of wild horses would have kept Tommy Stonecker from getting that audit. But number two was my wife, Jessica, because she's a wicked smart businesswoman. She's going to see things in that I won't see. She'll review it and go, hey, what about this, this, and this? Have you thought about this? And so she's a good member of my team.
That's awesome. All right, we may have project slides, or you can just walk them through us, and we'll email
I
those
took a
out to
picture, so they're not
everyone.
that great.
Yeah, well, you can show them on your phone because you sent them to me from your phone. So we could show that, but we won't. So obviously, I mean, that's one of the things that we look forward to kicking off the year with the county, is the updates on projects, and there's certainly no shortage of activity happening here in Houston County. So if you can just take a few minutes, notice it, just a few minutes, and walk through some of those for us, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the clock, and we're going to try to get y'all out of here on time. But I'll say in the end of January, we officially occupied and moved into the new state courthouse in Perry. That's been a big and long time project that Chairman Stonecker was committed to seeing across the finish line, and he did. And that's a $21 million project thereabout once you tack on FF&E and all that sort of stuff. And it's a significant change for our county. It locates all of our judicial resources there in Perry, except for magistrate court and juvenile court, but state court and superior court, and both the clerks and public defenders are there together. That's a big change for the county, but it's significant. It helps us be more efficient when we can bring prisoners over from the jail, which is immediately adjacent, and easily like that. Helps us and it's a beautiful facility. If you have not been there to see it, it is the judges and the clerk and the Solicitor General are very excited about their new facility there, and they're ready to be there. So we funded that project out of SPLOST dollars. So that was important. Health department renovation. I don't know if many of you drive down Cohen Walker every day, but we're undergoing a health department renovation. As you know, the people in this room, we have called on public health to do a lot over the last 2 years, and in many ways, we figured out their facilities were not adequate to meet the needs that we were asking them to do. So we're expanding their facility, a significant addition to their facility, and renovating much of their current facility. That's a $5.7 million project, and that's paid from American Rescue Plan funds, which is otherwise known as the ARPA Act, right? And you're going to hear reference to ARPA a couple of times in this presentation. So we got a public safety complex coming online in Bon Air. It's a $4.7 million project. I believe footers are in and successful, and there's some blocks. I'm not a construction guy, so I don't know if those blocks are walls or further enhancement to the construction, but I'm sure if you drive by there, the guys that are working will be happy to tell you about it. It's a $4.7 million complex. It's going to house both a new fire station for Bonaire. Bonaire is a growing area. I'm a Bonaire guy. And it's a growing area, and we need more resources to appropriately serve them. But in addition to that, it's going to serve as a hub for EMS services and as a new sheriff's precinct there. So we're excited about co-locating not only fire, but EMS and sheriff's resources there in downtown Bonaire, and happy about that. So in addition, so state court moves out of their current facility. You got a question of what we're going to do with that facility. And I'll say, I don't know that many people know this, but the longest serving sheriff in the country has occupied virtually the same space since about 1976. Is that what we determined yesterday, Robbie? And has done so without complaint. And as this county has experienced radical growth over nearly the last 50 years, that sheriff has continued to operate a very efficient and effective operation out of his office there. And so we're finally, we're going to take that state court and we're going to renovate it, and the tax commissioner is going to expand into that space, and then the sheriff is going to get a significant amount of that space. We're excited about that project. It's winding up to be about a $6 million project, and that is also a SPLOST funded project. In addition to these vertical projects, we've got a couple of significant road projects going on, and one of those, is Alberta Road widening. I think those of you who spend much time on the north end of the county, you have no doubt come across the Alberta Road widening project. We're excited about that project. It's going to significantly increase pedestrian access and pedestrian safety in that area, and it's also going to widen the road to accommodate more traffic, which is there. That is an $8.9 million project, and that's just for phase 1, which we're currently working on. Phase 1 is projected to be completed in May 2024, SPLOST funded project. We're also doing a 127 widening as 127/Houston Lake crosses Perry Parkway there. It begins to narrow down. You lose a lane, and if you've ever been sitting at that red light, you know you got to step on the gas if you want to be first in line, right? And so you know that light. I see some of you shaking your hands. Yes, y'all know what's up. And you know if you're sitting at that red light and it turns green, you better be ready to go, because otherwise it's unkind. Not me, but some people have said some dirty words there as they're losing that lane. So that is a $3.5 million project, SPLOST funded. It's going to widen 127 in Houston Lake as it comes into the city of Perry there, all the way from that bypass all the way to where it's already widened, which is right where King's Chapel comes in. Thank you for nodding, Brian, that I was yes on that. I do need confirmation on those things every now and then. So, and in addition to that, we've got a lot of far less visible projects, and a lot of those are water projects. Water projects aren't the big, you're going to get out and cut the ribbon and break the ground and everything, but they are critically important for this county. One way that Houston County excels is in our water. Quite frankly, we are blessed because of the aquifers that we sit over. And that's no testament to anybody in this room. You know, nobody here drew the lines of Houston County, but we have good water in this county. And Houston County in particular, and our water organization, is very good at getting it out of the ground, get it treated, and getting it delivered to customers. We do a good job of that. We sell a lot of waters into the cities to support their growth. The cities are our #1 water customers. We sell a lot of water to industrial clients, and look forward to continuing to do that. I think Frito-Lay is our #3 water customer behind the cities. So they buy a lot of water as well. We got a lot of water projects going in the ground. ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act, specifically called out water funds. And so we're putting a lot of ARPA funds to use in funding those projects. Let me just tell you, with all these projects, inflation is real, right? We're all feeling the crunch of inflation. About 18 months ago, I sat down our dogs and said, I know you love Purina, but it's gotten a little expensive, so we're going to go to something else. And you know, we're all feeling that crunch, right? And so as much as we feel it in dog food and groceries, it is a multiplier of that in construction. Let me just say, steel, asphalt, the pipe for water projects. It is, if you think inflation is bad at the grocery store, you ain't seen nothing yet. We did a project, we estimated a project rather 18 months ago for one of these water line projects, and we got updated numbers this past week, and the estimated cost of the project has increased 80%. And what you've got is you got a lot of funds going after limited resources, right? When the federal government says we're going to inject $1 trillion, and by the way, one of the very few things you can use it on is water projects, that's not a bad thing. I'm glad they put restrictions on how that money can be used. But then all of those resources are soaked up by those funds, and supply and demand works, y'all. And so we've got to realize that. So as we fund these projects, we've got to be very wise and careful. SPLOST has performed very well, and SPLOST is funding a lot of these projects, but we can't spend an extra SPLOST dollar 4 times. We've got to make sure that we're continuing to count our pennies and make sure that these projects, we're doing everything we can to bring them in as much budget as we can.
Very good. So speaking of SPLOST, so SPLOST has been long time supported by the taxpayers of Houston County on some, just incredible projects that enhance our community and are things that we all now really take for granted. So we have another SPLOST coming up on the November ballot. What can you share about SPLOST 2024?
Yeah, so not a whole lot right now. We're still very early in the process, but the mayors and I have had our first meeting about SPLOST 2024. Our current SPLOST that we're in currently is called SPLOST 2018 because it started collections in 2018 and a SPLOST can run for 6 years. We're very excited about the future projects. We need to do a lot more work on a project list and get those dialed in. And you're going to hear a lot about SPLOST in the coming months. I'm eyeing our county attorney here to make sure I don't step afoul of anything, but I think we're all aware of that I can't be up here and advocate for SPLOST. But let me tell you, you have seen what SPLOST has done in this county. You have seen how those pennies have been put to work, and I would ask the citizens of this county to look at the work that has been done. Look at the project list that the mayors of Centerville, Perry, Warner Robins, and myself are going to work on and carefully consider whether they think those projects are worthy of support. Without SPLOST in this county, a lot of the capital projects that you see just don't happen. We don't have room in the budget for those projects apart from that. So I'm excited about the project. I'm excited about the process and working alongside the mayors. And I'm confident we'll put together a good package.
Very good. So we've talked a lot about fiscal integrity. The county obviously boasts a low millage rate, conservative fiscal practices. What we probably haven't ever really talked about on this stage are what are the costs of not raising taxes and operating with lean budget practices. So, for example, is the county appropriately staffed for the kind of growth that we have? Do we have access to the right resources that our county needs to operate effectively when it comes to technology, infrastructure, etc.?
Did you get submitted this question?
I did.
Yes. Somebody wants higher taxes?
No, but I think it's a testament to the county. I think the point of the one who submitted this question was the county has done so well. How? All of us are living in challenging times in our businesses, and we're seeing how hard it is to stretch that same dollar. How is the county doing it, and what additional support or resources may be needed, and how can we look at funding opportunities for that?
So I think, our goal at Houston County is to run a very lean and efficient operation. I think that's what the taxpayers want to see. They want to see their tax dollars going towards good, effective, efficient operation of the government. We try to be very wise and judicious with taxpayer resources. Chairman Stoddicker was good about it. I'm endeavoring to be good about it. When we stand up at ribbon cuttings and whatnot, the primary person who is thanked at those things is the taxpayers of Houston County, because they're the ones who made it happen. Whether that be by supporting a SPLOST, or whether by paying their property tax bills, or any number of things. We're trying to use those resources as absolutely judiciously as possible. I think it's possible that the person who submitted this question didn't know, but we cannot raise taxes willy-nilly. We are under a tax cap in Houston County, and thanks to rapid growth in real estate values, we hit our tax cap last year and had to roll back our millage rate as a result of hitting the tax cap. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're at the tax cap. We don't put together a budget and then come and say, how much are we going to tax to fund this budget? We see how much tax revenue we're going to get at a current or lower millage rate, and then we say, what can we fund based on that? It's a different way of doing a budget from many governments, but we found it to work very well. We found it to work very well. I think one of my favorite phrases is constraints build creativity, right? So when you know that you can't go out and fund every pie in the sky idea that you have, then you've got to figure out how to operate within what we're doing. And I think we're operating very well. I think the results speak for themselves in Houston County. I think the citizens who live here, the growth of our county speaks to the fact that folks want to live here. And we should be proud of that. We should be proud of the success we're having. And I'll also say this, we cannot pay as much many times as the private sector. We don't pay as much as some other governments sometimes. We try to be just as absolutely competitive as we can, but there's no amount of money, as far as workforce goes, there's no amount of money that can make up for bad culture. And what we're committed to in Houston County is creating a good workforce culture where people feel like they're listened to, they're appreciated, and the job that they do matters. And so that's sometimes that can make up for a little bit more money you may get somewhere else. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. Again, we have those constraints and we've got to operate with them. And I think overall that the overarching question is do we have the resources we need? And I'll say yes, we do have the resources we need. We've been operating a very effective government, and we're going to continue to do that, and you can't do that without the resources that we have.
That's perfect. Thank you for that response. As Houston County continues to grow, we talked about our growth. What strategies or measures are being put into place to handle the demands that growth creates? And is there any effort, which I know there is, to kind of influence where and how that growth happens? So basically, strategic growth.
Well, we along with our sister cities put together a strategic plan about what an area should look like in 10 years, what it should look like in 20 years. Whenever we get questions for rezoning or things like that, we look at that plan and say, does this align with our strategic goals and plans, and what's that look like? I would also say we're always looking towards the future. When I sit down with Brian Jones and Terry Deach, our utility supervisor, and we look at water plans, we're not talking about what we need in 6 months. We're talking about what we need in 5 years, what we need in 10 years to meet the demands that we see forthcoming in Houston County. We have one of the best ways that we prepare for growth in Houston County is we have tremendously healthy enterprise funds. In water and in solid waste, those enterprise funds are tremendously healthy. We have zero debt. You know what zero debt allows you to be? Do you know what zero debt? Zero debt, you know, in your own business, zero debt allows you to be agile. So as you see things that are coming towards you and they're not what you expected, or it's in a growth area that you didn't expect, we can move towards that and we can respond in relation to that. So that's a credit. I inherited that. That's not something that I've done in 2 months, Lord knows. And so that's a credit to the former county commissioners and to the former chairman that we've had. They all endeavored to continue to do that. Much of the residential growth that we're seeing, and a lot of the commercial growth that we're seeing, is happening inside the cities, and a lot of that has to do with access to sewer, and we attempt to and try to be the best partner we can be to the cities of Centerville and Perry and Warner Robins, and to help encourage their plans for residential growth and how to serve those citizens. A lot of times there's a rub between county residents and city residents, and just across that line it can look slightly different. And we try to work with developers to get something that allows for that growth and development to happen while not changing the nature of that line too much. So we work there to find common ground and to work alongside those cities. And we're going to continue a great attitude of collaboration with our cities. And I think another thing we've got to consider as we experience some growth is an emphasis on public safety. As I mentioned, we have I don't know that there's a way to verify this, but we've got the longest serving sheriff in all the nation. And we're very blessed by that. I see Chief Stoner here. Hey Chief, how's it going? Chief and his team are continuing to do a good job fighting fires, and we're committed towards an emphasis on public safety in Houston County. I think, one of my quotes, I don't know where I picked it up, but public safety is the prerequisite for prosperity. As long as you don't have a safe county, a safe city, you're not going to have a prosperous county or city. So we're working alongside to make sure that our sheriff's department and our fire department and our other public safety agencies on the judicial side are appropriately staffed. And we've dedicated $1 million of those ARPA funds to help roll out a flock camera system. It's not speed traps, and it's not trying to catch you jaywalking, and nobody is there looking at those cameras trying to catch somebody but doing bad. But when a violent, serious offense happens, we're able to go type a license plate into that and hopefully find those offenders. And that's going to be a big deal for reducing crime in Houston County. So I think another area that we're supporting growth is in our support of public safety.
That's fantastic. And I like that quote. Throw it on a t-shirt, you can claim it.
No, I can't.
So along the lines of growth, and one of the things that we addressed at our last Stakes and Issues of 22, and Governor Kemp addressed in his State of the State address, was the need for appropriate housing for the development projects coming to communities across our great state. What is the county doing, or in partnership with our private developers, to incentivize home building for this hardworking middle class, bringing back the missing middle of starter homes in that $80,000 to $180,000 range?
Yeah, I think this is when I hear phrases like missing middle, and when I hear ranges like $80,000 to $180,000, I think this is a very well-intentioned question. Yeah. But I also think it's a bit misinformed, and I think it's based on two myths essentially. And I think the first myth is that we can somehow create an enclave of affordable housing in our region, in our county, in our city that is separate and that is insulated from what the housing market is doing nationally, statewide, or anywhere else. We can no more do that than we can somehow magically make milk or gas cost less in Houston County. If housing prices rise in California, they're going to rise in Georgia. Housing is a commodity. It's a national market, right? And so I think we've got to acknowledge that while we should be endeavoring to make sure that the workforce has places to live and so that we can continue to operate businesses, I think we've got to acknowledge that we can't somehow create some sort of affordable housing enclave here in Houston County that is separate from the rest of the region, and separate from the rest of the state, and separate from the rest of the nation. And so as inflationary pressures have been especially hard on housing, we have to acknowledge they've been hard in this area too. But I think the other sort of myth underlying this question is that housing in Houston County is not affordable. And I would just push back on that a little bit. In November of 2022, the Atlanta Business Chronicle ran an article with this headline: Georgia's last affordable housing market is home to aviation, Little League, baseball, and Buc-ee's. Anybody have any idea where they're talking about? They're talking about Warner Robins.
Yeah.
And they wrote this article based on data from the Federal Reserve that says of the 23 metro markets in Georgia, only one of them has housing that is ranked as affordable. You know where that is? Warner Robins, Georgia, right? You know, the recent Economic Outlook 2023 from the University of Georgia says, you know, yes, we have experienced house price appreciation, especially during the pandemic and especially in the last year. But overall in the state of Georgia, from the pandemic to the current time, house prices have appreciated 45.9%. That's significant. That's painful, right? But you know what it's done here in the Warner Robins metro area? 35.5%, right? So we are performing significantly better overall compared to the state in terms of keeping our housing affordable, right? So the last line of that report says this. It says demographics are very favorable, with a generally younger population and many new residents that come from elsewhere in Georgia. Fortunately, despite the recent appreciation, the Warner Robins metro area's single-family homes are probably undervalued and not very vulnerable to correction. So if you don't hear anything I have said else in response to this question, I want you to push back as you go back and talk to folks that housing in Houston County, Warner Robins, Perry, Centerville is not affordable. It is affordable. And so if we want to get creative about how we address affordable housing, I think that the answer is redevelopment. We've got to get away from this notion that an old house is a bad house. I'll just tell you, many of the homes built 50 years ago have better bones than the homes that many of the homes that are built today. And that's no disparaging on any builder who's building homes today, but they were built in a different manner. They were built solid. And so we've got to get away from this idea that an old home is less desirable. We've got to begin to redevelop some communities where there's less attractive housing, and we've got to get creative in that way, right? We've got to redevelop some areas. And I think redevelopment in Houston County would be very exciting, and I look forward to participating in it.
I love that. We will also share that Atlanta Business Chronicle article on the Chamber Facebook page and in the email I sent you guys with the lovely slides that we're missing, so that you can share it, because I do think a lot of it is narrative and helping to change those perceptions, because a lot of it is just what you continue to hear becomes reality for people. But it is exciting to hear about that, and I'm a firm believer in redevelopment. I know we'll get to hear a little bit about that in some coming breakfasts as well with our other municipalities. So I guess the last question I'll just ask is really any closing thoughts you have, any kind of aha moments or pleasant surprises you've had in your first, I guess you're not even really at 90 days yet, in office with this new leadership team you've got assembled here.
I have aha moments every day, April. I'll send somebody an email and say, what about such and such? And they say, well, that's not going to work, or we've already done that, or so on and so forth. But I think, you know, there's really two things that I want to focus on when I think about change in Houston County and where we want to go. And I challenged I brought all the department heads in day one, and I said, I really want to challenge y'all to think of creative ways that we can begin to use technology to our advantage to help reduce our dependence on manpower. We all are in the labor market. We know what labor rates are doing, right? So we've got to be willing to look for ways in which we can automate and streamline processes that help reduce our dependence upon labor. That's the way we're going to remain under that tax cap and continue to operate with a balanced budget. I think one of the areas that I've inherited and we're committed to seeing across the finish line is a new court management system. You know, when you've got clerks, assistant clerks sitting in an office and they're typing the same data into multiple screens and things like that, we know we've got an opportunity for automation to help solve those problems. And so Chairman Stonecker started the process of a new court management system, and I'm excited about bringing that. But we're looking for many other ways that we can help automate and streamline processes. And I think the other thing that I'm excited about, it's not a fully formed idea yet, but we have done a tremendous job with developing leaders within Houston County. As you see from these three new senior staff positions, we've backfilled positions within our staff very well. And I want to begin some type of leadership development program, and where we identify up-and-coming stars within our employ and say, what sort of tools, what sort of resources can we put in your hands that's not going to make you necessarily better at the job right now, but is going to better fit you and prepare you for the job that we want you to be doing in 10 to 15 years. And I think, I hope our department heads are excited about that. Again, not a fully formed idea, but it's something that I want to lead Houston County into doing, is a really significant leadership development program.
I love it. Anything in closing you want to add before we wrap up our time together? We got
My watch says 9 o'clock, so I'm
there you
done.
go. Okay, he's done. Chairman Perdue, everybody, join me in thanking him. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I know we had a few little hiccups, but it is good to be back. It is a great place, as Jeremy said, to live, work, play, and pray. And we don't take for granted the opportunity to gather with you and to hear from the great people who are doing wonderful things in our community. We know so many of you were excited about being here today that we had 40 of you registered yesterday for today's event, which thankfully my friends in the back with Creekside Catering were able to accommodate, and we were able to make all of that happen. But we are going to be gathering right back here next Thursday for State of the Base, and our catering deadline is Friday. So that means I need all of y'all to either pull out your phones now, or when you get back to the office, go ahead and register. We already have 300 registered, which is 100 more than are in the room right now. So we know that this is an exciting event. We know that you want to be a part of it. You already know you're coming, so please let us know so that we can plan appropriately for that. It's going to be an incredible time together as we hear from base leadership. We'll receive the base's new economic impact numbers. We'll get to hear about some of the new missions and capabilities and things that we're excited to learn more about. We've got some additional opportunities coming up, business after hours on March the 9th at Terma. We hope to see you all there. And then I know we talked about the labor market with Chairman Perdue, and in the last 24 hours I've seen 3 different mostly either food service or retail businesses announced that they weren't going to be serving lunch, or they were going to be opening late, or drive-through only due to staffing shortages. So we've got a couple of things. We continue to work in that space of Robbins Works and helping to provide resources for employers with workforce development. Angie's going to be our next speaker for Eggs and Issues on the 30th of this month, talking about workforce development. We'll have a panel here, but we're having another job fair that afternoon. So if you're hiring and you've got multiple positions, the last several job fairs have brought out between 400 and 900 active job seekers. I got friends in the room from Spirion shaking their head. They know the kind of impact that we're able to get and reach. And the sooner you respond to that and let us know the jobs that you're filling for, the sooner we can start marketing those and hiring those, giving you opportunities to meet and hire those individuals who can make your operation run the way that we know it needs to do for you to continue to do business in the greatest county here in Georgia. And then if you are looking for an opportunity to volunteer, talking about long-range workforce development, we partner with Robbins Financial Credit Union and are very excited to welcome back our Reality Check series, which is an opportunity for high school juniors and seniors to see a day in the life of their 26-year-old self. They have a career, they find out if they have a spouse or dual income, do they have kids or not. They have to go do life. They have to secure housing in a simulated environment. They have to have transportation. They have to have a cell phone plan. If they have kids, they have to have daycare. And then we want to make sure that they've got money at the end of the month instead of the other way around, right? So each of those different aspects that they have to go through is manned by volunteers from the business community. If you'd be interested in serving for a few hours on March 7th or 8th, talk to one of us. We would love to share with you. It is a tremendous experience. Arlie over in the corner here will get you signed up, but it is a wonderful opportunity to make a lasting impact on the youth of our community. Arlie, am I missing anything? So food to go. So we told them 40 more, and then they planned for even more. So we would love for you guys to grab a plate. And then my favorite giveaway, perhaps, that we've had in a really long time is these awesome buckets from Flint Energies. So Jenny and Raji are over there getting those ready for you to take home your very own anniversary edition Flint Energies 5-gallon bucket. I know with my dogs digging, I will make sure I get one of those to throw some river rocks in it and deter that activity. But thank you guys for coming. We hope to see you back here next Thursday. Register later today, and then we'll be back for Eggs and Issues next month. Y'all have a good one.